All right, so look, Timothy on purpose here. Um, it's a blessed, beautiful day. Got my guy, Mr. Charlie Price, with me, um, and we go back a ways, and we're both experiencing a certain transition within our transformation. And lately, we've just been hungry, and we've been thirsty for a different type of interaction and a different type of reality. And so, what we've chosen to do is we've chosen to step into a commitment that just involves reading books. It'll involve other things as well, but in this first phase of it, we decided to step into, a commitment relationship of reading together and then meeting once a week to pretty much go over what we discovered and kind of just grow together. Now, this is going to be a challenge for us because we've never done anything like this before with our own kind. And when I say that in the context of we both come from having gangbang from the same gang, same neighborhood, same area. You don't mind me putting out there, right? And today we're in a different space in life, and like as I mentioned, we're hungry and we're thirsty for more. And at one point in our lives, we would, we were willing to die for each other and put ourselves in situations in harm's way, to prove, that loyalty to one another. But, today we're stepping out in a different type of commitment on the other side of it. And we're committing to a loyalty of growing together, cognitively, spiritually, and emotionally. But I'll give Charlie, a few minutes to share before we dive into our first recap for what we read over the week. But yeah, just share a little bit about.
Not gonna be too long. As he said, I'm Charlie Price Jr. Me and Timothy come from the same community, as he said, experiencing different transitions for the better in our life in different areas. He approached me with this challenge of starting a book club and challenging ourselves with reading some literature. And the hope is for me individually, just that it adds to growth as a man. I'm a father of 3. My kids aren't little, so as I get older, I like to sharpen myself up and keep myself right. And the hope also is collectively as a unit, we get more people involved on this type of thinking and this type of approach to bettering ourselves and our communities, man.
So Charlie, he just stepped into entrepreneurship. He started a company not too long ago. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 6 years, and as I grow in entrepreneurship, and as I grow as a father, and as I grow as a husband, I'm finding myself all the more challenged by my thought life, by my mindset, and by complacency. And yeah, I just talking with Charlie over the course of the last couple years. I've always been encouraged by him. I've always been inspired by him. He's someone who has stepped in and out of my circumstances as a man since I've been on this side of it, and has just showed consistent support. And so I knew that stepping into this with him, it would I couldn't do anything but benefit from it. And so the book we chose, it's called The Man in the Mirror by Patrick M. Morley. I attempted to read this book some years ago. I read through it, but I knew that one day, as I was reading it, I said one day I think I'll be in a space to better absorb what the content has to be absorbed. And when we first started talking about this is the first book that kind of popped up in my head and in my heart. And we've already dove into one chapter of it. And so what we're going to do today is we're just going to talk about some things that moved us, that challenged us, and that kind of broadened our perspective. I'm big on perspective. I'm a perspective guy. You know, being on the other side of a life of criminal thinking and criminal living and traumatic, you know, gang banging experiences. If you survive, I'm 42 years old this year, and if you're from my era and you survived this long, your perspective can't help but to be somewhat empowered or broadened. And so, reading the first chapter of this, it dealt immediately with a subject that I'm not too, you know, coming from my community and coming from my household, I can't say I too much relate in the context of what the first chapter was highlighting as far as the rat race. But in the context of what I was chasing as a gang member, this did resonate with me. You know what I'm saying? And then even now, as an individual who is in this entrepreneurial, you know, arena, it's helping me to like stabilize myself, and, you know, from the context of like understand why you're doing what you're doing, and know what you can do, you know what I'm saying, as a result of, you know, how I'm learning from the process of being an entrepreneur. And diving into it real quick, so each chapter pretty much starts with like a quote from an author and a scripture. And so this is a Christian man who wrote this book. I'm a Christian man myself. Came a long way to be able to confidently walk in the reality of, and I'm still learning in that reality. Excuse the noise, we're outside of an establishment trying to make it, but we're gonna make it count. But this first quote, it's actually like a line from a song. Yeah.
Like you said, like Timothy just said, the first quote was taken from Simon and Garfunkel. I think they're a band or a musical band of some sort or something. I'm not too familiar with them. I'm not going to pretend like I am. But the quote reads as this. It says, like a rat in a maze, the path before me lies. Simon and Garfunkel. I'm going to say it again just because that noise was a little loud. It says, like a rat in a maze, the path before me lies, by Simon and Garfunkel. And the scripture that they've chosen to reference from is from Galatians chapter 5, verse 7. You are running a good race. Who cut in on you to keep you from obeying the truth? That's the question. You are running a good race. Who cut in on you to keep you from obeying the truth? Galatians 5 and 7.
And a lot of the times, depending on who you are and what you've been through, speaking for myself, what I came to realize within this chapter is that, like, it be us, you know what I'm saying, that get in, like, we be, like, stepping into entrepreneurship. I had like certain goals, I had a certain mindset, I wanted to grow, I wanted to get as many accounts as I could, you know, my family started to grow, so that kind of shifted my priorities. I started wanting accounts for a different reason now. I just wanted to be able to establish a solid income. I also wanted to provide entrepreneurial opportunities for other individuals. Yeah. But once you start to make a certain amount of money, or once you start to get in a certain, like your account volume increases, your mindset, you know, depending on who you're around and depending on what you're actually taking in, what you're consuming,
right,
you can get lost. And I know this is speaking scripturally, contextually, this is speaking about running that race of, like, you know, your spiritual journey. But anything you do is you. You know what I'm saying? Like, anything you do is you, and so it's connected to you. So as an entrepreneur, that doesn't exclude me from being a Christian. As a father, it doesn't exclude me from being a Christian. As a husband, it doesn't exclude me from being a Christian, or someone that's following Christ. So in anything I'm doing, it has to line up. You know what I'm saying? And so one of the things that I realized was that in this race that I'm running, I have to run well, and I can't get distracted by what I don't have versus, you know, what I want versus what I need. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately, it's like if I can be in the space of having what I desire as an entrepreneur, at the same time as being in the space of what I desire as being a husband, at the same time as being in the space of what I desire as being a father, and, you know what I'm saying, a follower of Christ,
right,
man, so be it. That's what I want. That's what I need. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I believe is possible.
right.
But I'd be lying if I didn't say that I have gotten in my way and I've chased in this last 6 years after things that I don't.
Stuff.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, or just wanting contracts for the purpose of saying I got contracts. You know, it's like I have contracts. I'm doing good. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not just still at 2 contracts, or I'm not just still at, you know, my business is. I have a cleaning company. I started it in prison, and when I got out, it was a year before I actually launched it. But you know, it's been about a good 6 years, and it's been solid. But without even realizing what this had kind of like, what this was showing me about myself, I found myself in the midst of that mindset, and I pulled myself back. And I said, you know, I got rid of my Google Accelerator. I got rid of some things that kind of like had all of these things coming at me, and I was just taking things, and I became that company that just had too much. I had too much clientele, you know what I'm saying, and not enough, and I wasn't able to execute in a quality way.
Right.
And so
you mind if I'm gonna chime in? So for me, man, I haven't read a book. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm a big reader. I do like certain things that pique my interest. So the last book that I probably read was the autobiography of Malcolm X, and I didn't even finish all the way through because somebody stole it from my job. But when it says, when I see like a rat in a maze, the path before me lies, and then the reference to the scripture, and like Timothy, I was raised in Christian faith, and I'm more spiritual than, you know, I'm shaky still with the religious aspect of things, but I'm solid in my faith, and what I believe in and who I believe in. But when it says you are running a good race, and who cut in on you to keep you from obeying the truth, first thing that came to my mind was like what is your truth, and what kind of race are you applying this to? You know what I mean? Like you just touched on the entrepreneurship and that type of race, and how it all ties into family and perspective of life, and me too. You know what I mean? I started myself a cleaning business just recently, like only a couple months up and running. I still work for my company that I've given almost 20 years to, working with kids, you know, from all kinds of backgrounds. But that's what I first thought of, like what kind of race, you know what I mean? I just thought to myself, man, like I could get caught up in all kinds of races, and your head sometimes can be the worst maze to be in, you know what I mean, depending on your circumstances, and like you said, on who you're around and what you're around. But looking at the text, I think they dive into this character, and I don't say that in a disrespectful light, but a guy named Larry, you know what I mean? And it kind of, I don't know what your perspective was, but when I started reading, man, Larry started off with you know, he has a good job, got the good family set up, got a wife. I think they have 3 children, I believe. I think they have 3 kids. And the first thing, and I see how his life, how it progressed fast, like them wanted chasing things. And I think his wife was a stay-at-home mom. And all because, and it's not wrong to want things like for your family, but he got caught up in that race of like, oh, I need this, I need that to equal a certain status, or to make sure I'm keeping up with what, you know, what I'm supposed to do, quote unquote, you know what I mean? And I don't know about you, but it goes bad. Yeah. It goes bad fast, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the first little star that I clicked on was on page 29, and it said Larry clearly understood the trade-off: more money, less family. more family, less money. Yet they really wanted the good life.
Right.
Unpack that for me, man.
Well, and that's the thing is like, I think before we make any decision, we always know. You know what I'm saying? Like we always know if it's a good decision, if it's a bad decision.
What it's gonna cost.
What it's gonna cost.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And some of us make the decision anyway.
Yeah.
And Larry, he knew that his wife had become a stay-at-home mom, and she had desires, and she wanted to go back to work, and she felt that she could add to the equation. You know what I'm saying? But you know, he knew that she was putting it off. But he continued to choose to, you know,
support it.
Yeah, to just like not support her in the sense to kind of like relieve himself,
right,
of like being
the
breadwinner, and just always being, because you know. So to answer that question though, or to unpack it before I step over to the daughter, Larry, knowing by working more, it's less family, and actually continue to work more and receive less family.
Yeah. He felt like it was the right.
He felt like it was the right thing to do. He was in a pocket, and he was. It seemed like he just knew that he couldn't lose his family. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He knew that he loved his wife. He knew that he loved his children.
Yeah.
And he couldn't conceive the thought or entertain the idea of losing it all.
Yeah.
Because he's working hard for his family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day,
see how that go.
Yeah, because it's like work more, less family. Eventually it becomes work more, no family. Like it's less and less and less until there's no more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And before you dive into unpacking you gonna go into the children.
Just what the daughter had mentioned.
With the daughter, was she asking that question?
Yeah.
All right, I see where you're going. Going back to their relationship, man, like I be tripping on that stuff sometimes, because you gotta, especially nowadays in society, man, they put these pressures on you through, and we'll get into it with social media and commercials on what a man and a woman is supposed to be, and I think each individual defines that for themselves, but like, who's to say anything's wrong with being a stay-at-home mom? You know what I mean?
Right.
Not saying, I think it touched on it earlier in the chapter that said she was content with it, but it became a point where she was not feeling like she was contributing to her own self-worth. You know what I mean? Her identity was tied into conquering some goals that are good goals to have, but there's gonna be a sacrifice, you know what I mean? Like, and the sacrifice eventually will lead to their relationship, you know what I mean? While chasing some things that can sustain a family, you know what I mean? Besides the material things, like the what he had a car or boat, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he seen his neighbors had a boat, and he figured that he can have a boat. All because they had to do is they had to put a down payment down and make payments.
Right.
And he realized he could afford it.
Yeah.
And he went after it.
Right.
You know, when they didn't even necessarily need that boat.
So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. Like, you see how the aspects of their relationship, both chasing kind of the same thing and wanting to better themselves, but that chasing more money leads to less family time, comes with a big cost, man, depending on your setup. So go ahead, man. Say you was gonna get to the daughter.
The daughter, but I wanted
question.
Because the daughter mentioned pretty much. She said she asked her dad if he still loved
mom.
If he still loved, her mom, his wife, and he was like, yeah,
of course.
You know what I'm saying? Of course, I still love your mother. You know what I'm saying? But it just resonates with me, man, because my son, he don't ask me if I love my wife, but he asks me questions like, how do you, we getting ready to pray, and he'll say, I got a question. How do you think Jesus feels that you spend more time out of the house working than you spend in the house with your own family?
Dang.
And I'm just like, man. And it's like, in my mind, I'm like, you don't even get it.
I'm doing the right thing.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm doing exactly
for
what
you. Yeah.
Mind you, though, he don't even know who he's asking. Like,
like
he's asking the Timothy that he sees.
Yeah.
But the Timothy that
he don't know about.
He don't know about. man, you know what I'm saying?
I done came a long way, man.
Long way. I'm working, I'm going to work and coming home,
right.
man. And
that's
so
a lot.
But it's humbling because this dude lost it all. Larry.
Yeah.
He lost it all. And why he lost it is because his psychology, just like my psychology, just a different context, a different lived experience, but my psychology, believing that material things is what will suffice for my family, it's driven by a manipulation that media has a lot to play with. Commercials have a lot to play with. And it started all when we were younger. Like,
yeah.
You know, like I said, I come from a family where it was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. And when it was great, but it wasn't consistently great.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Likewise.
Like, and when we got what we wanted, we loved it. But when we didn't get what we believed that we deserved, it hurt. So now that you're in a position and you actually are the entrepreneur, and you know, like, you know, the lights is on because you making it count. The cars is gassed up because you making it count. You know what I'm saying? Like, the car notes is paid because you making it count.
Yeah.
Not to mention your wife is holding it down so that you can actually be out there you know,
willing to deal it.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like distracted.
Yeah.
And
Riding
able to
the race.
Yeah, you know, making it count. It's like, but then,
like you said, it starts at the infancy when we're kids. Because like you said, that need to try to, not saying that might not be the perspective like, oh, I want to fit in, but that race that everybody's caught up in. I can remember being, you know, my parents is from the deep south, so my mom used to sew clothes when I was going to like Del Rio and Martin Luther King.
Oh, she used to sew clothes.
She used to sew my clothes, man. I remember I came to school one time with a Malcolm X outfit, like that she had sewed. But that's just not what the wardrobe was, you know what I mean? So, you know, people cracking jokes and, you know, being laughed at and stuff. It's like, all right, hold on, let me go to the indoor swap meet then and get me a little t-shirt or some basketball shit, you know, just so I could fit in and keep up, you know what I mean? Fast forward to let's go back to Larry. He saw his neighbor with a boat. He like, well, shoot, let me get a boat. You know what I mean? Like, I can afford it. You know what I mean? I can have this symbol. You know what I mean? That says that I'm maturing or progressing at the proper rate. You know what I mean? I'm taking care. Look what I have. You know what I mean? But
and it plays on your psychological and your sociological outlook, because in here it mentions something like, it mentions the standard of living fallacy, and it expresses, it says we Americans enjoy unprecedented material success, yet it's deceptive to measure our standard of living in only one dimension. To comprehend the standard of living we have actually achieved, we first need to unbundle the concept of standard of living and look at some of the component parts. So he gives an example. He says, on a plane trip I sat next to a distinguished couple in their mid-60s. Mr. Silver was the kind, gentle, grandfatherly type with a perpetual smile traced across the creases in his face. I learned they were just leaving Orlando, where they had attended their son's wedding in a hot air balloon. Mr. Silver was trying hard to take a philosophical view of how cavalier young people have become toward the highest state of marriage. As we talked, he reflected how all his financial dreams had been met, yet something bothered him. Yes, his financial standard of living was up, but an eerie feeling lingered that something wasn't quite right about his life. I happened to have with me a graph related to our discussion, so I showed it to him. He perked up and bellowed loudly. Yes, that's me. That's exactly what has happened to my life. And so ultimately what the figure shows, though, is that the more that the pursuit for certain individuals who were in the position to seek out the higher standard of living,
Mercedes, the BMWs,
there's another dynamic of standard of living that decreased. And once again, it's humbling to me because I'm just now starting to have kids. You know what I'm saying? Like,
still chasing the things that we trying to get that foundation for the things that we have.
Right, but also it's checking me And it's a beautiful thing because I'm in a position to be taught and I'm still teachable. And I love it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a difference. You have a growth mindset reality, you have a fixed mindset reality. Your fixed mindset will not allow you to take in stuff like, and that's why I wanted to start reading with you, because I wanted to challenge. There's still some areas in my mindset where I am fixed.
Yeah.
That I know need to be broken, and I know I can grow in.
Yeah.
And one of them is this concept of being present instead of bringing presents. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like I could be home, I can be out working all week, and I'm like, I ain't seen my kids or my wife as much, and then I come, Friday I have a day where I'm home majority of the day, but I know, when I come home, I might bring my daughter a doll that she likes, or my son a puzzle that he likes, or my other daughter some shoes that she likes, and my wife, you know what I'm saying, one of her favorite snacks. The reality is, it has this fleeting joy. Like, there's this joy, but it's fleeting. And what actually seems to linger is that which, like he was speaking of. My daughter will say something on Sunday, because now it's become a system.
Yeah.
She knows. My youngest daughter. No, she knows, like, Sunday is like the last day she's gonna be seeing me consistently.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it ain't gonna be until next Thursday or Friday. So now she's saying something like, she'll say it subtly too, like she'll be rolling on the bed laughing, kikiing and cacaing, and then she'll just look at me and be like, "Daddy, don't leave me."
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
2-year-old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not. She said, but you gon' go.
She know you about to
She
leave.
know
Yeah.
she know it's
Gotta go to work.
and it's like today is Sunday.
Yeah.
And she knew, and she knows. You know what I'm saying?
It's
She
that
said
day.
it today, actually.
Yeah.
She woke up from her nap. I'm getting her ready to drop her off with her grandma. You know what I'm saying? And she hit me with it. But that's the part right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait till I'm in my 60s and 70s to kind of like
tap into that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the rat race, it don't matter if you're in a suburban or urban area of life, in the context of yours environmentally, is trauma or no trauma, the rat race is a reality. And it tends, now I'm realizing that it's driven by the media.
Oh man.
It's driven by now social media. It's driven by, commercials, and that whole.
That fallacy.
And it is a fallacy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, go ahead.
I'm gonna touch on one while we in this section of the standard of living fallacy. I marked off a section that stood out to me. It says, the technology explosion of the last few decades marks our era as the pinnacle of human potential and achievement in all of history. We are blessed with technological enhancements in our creature comforts, our travel, our communications, and our jobs. Do you remember how tedious it was to find information before Google? And what would we do without Wikipedia? Can you recall when there wasn't an app for that to load onto your pocket mobile device? But at the same time, we have run up the score. This is the part I really like. We have also injured most of our players. The changes come quickly. Game plans have to be altered. Our best players get no rest. Speaking to that grind, you know what I mean?
That's us.
That's us.
We the best players.
That's what I thought about, man. And that refers to anybody that's no one's perfect, but you taking care of your family or yourself or whatever, your girlfriend, or whatever, your significant other, or just you alone, whatever your race is, you one of the best, but we out here injured while we're rolling, you know what I mean? I talked to you last week, it's like no sleep. No sleep. Pulling over on the freeway to get sleep. One of our best players, they out there injured. You know what I mean? But I think about, I love basketball. Michael Jordan, Kobe, your best players, that's that conditioning for the man. You supposed to play injured.
And you put them in the game though, and they gon' come through.
And they gonna come through
every
in the clutch.
time.
But it comes with a cost.
It comes with a cost.
So let me continue reading. It says, but at the same time, we have run up the score. We have also injured most of our players. The changes come quickly. Game plans have to be altered. Our best players get no rest, and tired players injure the easiest. Yes, we are prosperous, but at what price? To what we were talking about. We have a winning score, but most of us are tired. As individual members of the team are injured, the team as a whole begins to lose its rhythm, courage, and will.
Bro, and the team is the family.
That's man. That was a scary. When I read that, I was like, oh man.
The team is the family, and we are the Mikes and the Kobe's of the team.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
off top.
And they are dependent on us.
We have to be.
And that's so, you know, we running out of sunlight, and we gonna do our best to keep this, you know what I'm saying, like between, we gonna go. We'll try to keep this between 45 minutes to an hour or so, just so we don't, unless we just, you know, we just own one.
We might could redo it again with a better lighting.
Right.
We could do 1 and 2 on the next.
We'll probably end up doing
setup.
a 2, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But ultimately, to kind of like, the standard of living is like the main meat of this chapter.
Yeah.
Like, what is your standard of living? And when you think about those words, like your standard of living, I know my standard of living at one point, and I know you can attest, was very sacrificial, homicidal, and suicidal. You know what I'm saying? But I measured that in this spectrum of loyalty and commitment in just a different way than I do today. Now I have a whole nother different type of family, which is mine, that came from my loins, and that is just mine. And I am the most valuable player in a whole nother realm. And I find myself, as I'm reading this chapter, like what is your standard of living, and how are you communicating that through the way that you're operating in life to those who are trying to figure out how to play the game? Right. My wife is trying to figure out how to play the game by watching me. My children trying to figure out, they're learning how to play, and they don't even know it. They're just like
younger proteges, like
right,
myself,
and they just reaching.
Yeah.
I don't watch my son, and I'll let you share, you know what I'm saying? I don't watch my son transition from being this very like, he's just in this space now to where he's not as on me vocally. Now he's like, I see him falling into the rhythm. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was the one when I was coming home, how was work? You know what I'm saying? How was your day? Did you have hard buildings to clean? Now I'm starting to notice. Yeah.
He's getting this program.
Now I'm starting to notice.
No.
And it opened it up for me to actually express to him what a day is like for me, outside of being gone. But I started realizing, like, man, if he don't ask me, I'm not sharing, because I'm always tired. You know what I'm saying? And and what am I teaching him? You know what I'm saying? Concerning standard, like, because am I too tired to communicate with my own family? Is that you know what I'm saying?
That
like,
happens. I know I'm.
Because no matter what you're doing, you're living. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you're in the midst of the playoffs or a championship, in the context, metaphorically speaking, of our lives, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't become a game, and just because it's the championship, it's been practice, but it's not just a championship game. It literally, you just living at your highest and your optimal. You know what I'm saying? But depending on what you live in your standard, or depending on what your standard is leading up to that, is going to determine how you execute. And I believe, like, that's what I'm grabbing from this, you know, mainly is like the reality of, like, what is your standard, Timothy? You know what I'm saying? What is your standard, Charlie? You know what I'm saying? Like, how are you communicating your standard to your team, you know, to the home team?
Yeah, I like to kind of like to wrap it up, man. What I got out of this first chapter, the same thing. What is defining what is my race, or can it be multiple races? You know what I mean? And from my perspective, I can relate it in the deepest points of my ignorance. The race, it was still a race. It was just different perspective, different point of view, different players, different goals. You know what I mean? And I'm still deeply, and trust me when I say this, man, I love my community. I want the best for all of our communities. You know what I mean? For our city, everything. You know what I mean? But going back to the text, what is your race? um, your standard of living, the fallacies, you know what I mean, identifying those in my life, you know what I mean. And another thing I see is related to this graph when it says, you know, it shows as the material things go up, like the chase for, they're using Mercedes Benz and BMW. I'm not knocking that stuff, but they're using that as like the standard of, you know what I mean, you've reached the top. And as you see, as you chase some people chase those things, the morality and the spiritual and relational aspects fail.
Decline,
they decline. And then I fast forward to where I caught a problem within page 39, where it goes into these percentages, like from the baby boomers who were born from 1946 to 1961, Generation Xers born from 1962 to 1981, millennials born from 1982 and thereafter. And I'm not going to get too much into the numbers, it's a lot to unpack, but it says on the positive side, helping others who are in difficulty has steadily stayed the same. So no matter between the generations, as time has gone on, people, the moral compass to wanting to help others has not fell off too much. But where I saw the problem was, as these generations progress, the chase for that material gain and stuff like that, to keep up with that fallacy of the standard of living that social media and commercials play out, more people are chasing that and still wanting to have a family, you know what I mean? And it's like, my philosophy is this, unless you can find a healthy balance, which is very hard, we still chasing that, you know, while we try to sharpen each other up on different angles of our life. That's scary, because you got more people chasing these things, and you can see it playing out in TV. You got and I'm not knocking nothing, no disrespect, but you got the reality shows, right? Like, rather it be Housewives of Orange County or something, and you know, you got these adults playing out these fallacies and raising kids at the same time, under that same aspect. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, why you chasing and still trying to have a man? That stuff could be a real big problem. You know what I mean? So out of that chapter, man, I loved it. I love the book. It's a tough read. It's a challenging read, which I like. And what is your race, man? And it's something to keep me thinking and applying to all different aspects of my life, and trying not to get caught up in the race, but also not seeing nothing wrong. And where I'm at in my life, I still need some things in my life, you know what I mean? Like, or want to show some things to my kids. My oldest son's about to be 19. You know, I want him to see me working hard, you know what I mean? And getting, yes, if I work hard, I'm gonna get some material things, you know what I mean? But I also want to have a balance to where it's like, yeah, I'm getting these things from the work that I put in, but they don't mean nothing really,
right?
You know what I mean? If I don't have relationships, morals, spirituality, boundaries, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what I got out of it, man.
I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up with the book ends, the last paragraph, doing the new job, right? And it says, I learned in business school that the number one reason men fail when they are promoted is that they keep doing the old job. In other words, since what they have done in the past is comfortable and it worked, they simply continue the old job description instead of taking on the new challenges. The same is true in the spiritual realm. The number one reason men fail when promoted to follower of Christ is that they keep doing the old job. Instead of penetrating the issues of their lives and responding biblically, they continue to live an impotent life as if nothing had ever happened. Maybe they clean up their language a little bit, but essentially there's no change. Perhaps it's time that, Christian men in America, Christian women in America, check out of the rat race. It's an unwinnable race. Isn't it time we start doing the job we were promoted to when we first trusted Christ? And then it goes on to express a scripture, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old is gone, and the new is here. 2 Corinthians 5:17. There's 5 focus questions at the end of this. I'm going to read 2 of them. And the 2 are, in what ways has your material standard of living gone up since you were a child? In what ways do you think your moral, spiritual, relational standard of living has been affected? It appears that many men have been lulled into mental and spiritual complacency, how have consumerism and the media impacted your own values and the way you spend your time and money? I think all these questions are great questions. There's 3 more, but for the sake of sunlight and time, yeah, we'll revisit those 3 questions on the next opportunity to sit down with you guys. But with those 2 questions, real quick, in what ways has your material standard of living gone up since you were a child? And in what ways do you think your moral, spiritual, relational standard of living has been affected as a result of your material standard of living going up? And number 4, it appears that many men have been lulled into mental and spiritual complacency. How have consumerism and the media impacted your own values?
You want me to answer these numbers? You want me to go through 1 and 2 or 3 and 4?
The ones I just read, 3 and 4.
Okay, 3 and 4. Let me revisit the question. I got my notes, so I'm reading from my notes in this section. 3 and 4. In what ways have my material standard of living gone up? Just naturally. I mean, when you grow, you're not a child no more. As you progress and you become, you get older, you want to keep up with your peers. You know what I mean? Or what you feel like the standard of living is at that time. So of course my clothing shifted, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't dressing like from what my mom wanted me no more. Like that naturally shifted as I got older. As I became an adult, it shifted on when I wanted to see, like when I had certain little vices or whatever, like cars. I wanted this type of old school or something like that. Or I'll see a homie of ours with a certain type of old school. I'm like, ooh, I want something like that. You know what I mean? Right. So that shifted, and depending on the perspective or mind frame I'm in, affects that type of thing. My moral, spiritual, and that type of standard of living, yeah, man, I'll say for my upbringing, because I was always brought up in church, my faith has always been there. You know what I mean? Like now, does it wait? I've never questioned that part. You know what I mean? Now, as far as the way I'm living, of course, that was shaky. I'm not doing, but it's a battle. You know what I mean? My spiritual battle is one of the toughest ones that I face still to this day. You know what I mean? So I'll just keep it like that. But as a parent, it's gotten better, because as I've gotten older, I've been through more serious stuff. Not to say stuff that I was going through when I was younger wasn't serious. It's all tied in, your traumas, your experiences. But as I got older, my spirituality has gotten stronger, because when you look around, there ain't nothing to lean on but that. You know what I mean? You learn to lean on it, and depend on it. Number 4, it appears that many men have been lulled into mental and spiritual complacency. How has consumerism and the media impacted my own values? I isolated for a long time, man. So, and I never was I just recently started an Instagram, and I almost had a panic attack doing that. But TV, just natural TV, YouTube, I still was tapped into that stuff. I'm human, you know what I mean? So I will, even with the readers and stuff, I want to dive into let me see more about this author. Phone technology and stuff has made it easy for us to just roll over and access what we want. You know what I mean? So on the negative end of that, though, you know what I mean? That instant gratification, or wanting to, we're entrepreneurs. You've been doing it way longer. You're my mentor in that. You know what I mean? I be looking at my YouTube and I got all cleaning video, and it makes me like, oh, I was with you last week, and I'm in the supply store like, I need this, I need that, I need that, I need that. Then I go to Joey, and he's like, yeah, you do need it, you know what I mean? But you only got these little contracts. Right. He's like, don't load yourself up like you got 10 buildings, you know what I mean? But that's just part of that consumerism, like, oh, you know what I mean? I'm watching you shop for your business, and I'm like,
that's a perfect example.
You saw me, I'm taking pictures of my loved ones set up at the building, and I'm just like, I need 4 of these. You know what I mean? So man, I love that question. Yeah, I get tied up in it, and it's hard. That's a race. I'm gonna get caught up in it again. You know what I mean? But the hope is that through sharpening our minds with this, we'll be able to realize when we're caught up in some type of maze. You know what I mean? That we really can't win. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah,
same with me, man. 100%. My material standard of living has gone up since I was a kid, and that's mainly because we didn't really have none. I was wearing my uncle's shoes to school, so when I could buy my own shoes, I was making sure I had
What you want?
everything I wanted. You know what I'm saying? And like morally, spiritually, and relationally, my standard of living was affected because I prioritized that over my morality. You know what I'm saying? Like I was actually stealing stuff, breaking into stuff, just so that I can actually, you know, I could look like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? I can have, you know what I'm saying, the Grant Hills at that time or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The freshest Chucks or the freshest, you know what I'm saying, Cortez's, whatever at the time. And then it transitioned into my adult life.
Criminal activities, run out.
And it affected me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like because
for real.
I compromised all of that just so that I could actually be standing next to others in the same light. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And it appears that many men have been lulled into mental and spiritual complacency. How have consumerism and the media impacted my own values and the way I spend my time and money? Ultimately, as I was sharing with my family, yeah, man, social media is hard on me. You know what I'm saying? I have to be careful. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're watching some of these videos. Like sometimes I could be watching ET, or I could be watching Social Proof, or I could be watching EYL, and I could be just so bent on wanting to make enough money to secure my family financially.
Man.
And I'll embrace this concept of eating on the left side of the table, or you know what I'm saying, like getting my credit up so that I could be able to have, you know, this much money to be able to do this with my family. But I realized
Put you right in the race.
it puts you in that
Right
mindset,
there, yeah,
and you
just-
compromise.
You go for it.
Right, and it's very influential, and it's very, you know, it'll manipulate your mind, and it's all because we were raised in that generation where TV. I'm born in '81, so that's when, you know, color TV and all of that stuff finally started taking off. There was no iPhones, there was no, you know what I'm saying, but yeah, we done went blurred on y'all, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It can't track our eyes no more, so you can't see us as blurred. But to finish that statement, we were raised in that generation where all of that stuff, like you said, technology, it really began to boom, which kind of gave the upper hand to those who knew how to manipulate the masses through the tool. And that's a mindset that we have to learn to break, and that's why I love this book, and that's why I love that it started where it started. Because even though I'm already an entrepreneur, you're already an entrepreneur, we're already where we're at.
Yeah.
As a father, as a husband, you know what I'm saying? Even as individuals in each other's lives who want to help each other to keep accountable, we have to know who we are.
That's true.
We gotta have, and I have to hold you to a certain standard of friendship. You have to hold me to a certain standard of friendship and entrepreneurship. You know what I'm saying? So that I can stay on track, and that's why I appreciate
So we don't
you
get caught
stepping
up in these fallacies.
Nah, these fallacies, because it is. You can believe that the standard of living for you needs to be what it is for others.
Yeah.
So you're your own person. You know what I'm saying? Like, and before so much influence was accessible, you know, it didn't have that much of a grip on us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, man, this has been awesome, man. You know what I'm saying? I look forward to more opportunities to sit down with you and just break this book down. You know, The Man in the Mirror is the name of this book.
Good book,
it's by
man.
Patrick M. Morley.
Good book.
And the forward in is by R.C. Sproul, which is he's a powerful man. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, he's a powerful Christian man. But solving the 24 problems men face. This is just one of them. You know, and with that said, any last words before we dip out?
No, man. Appreciate Timothy for letting me share this platform with him and sharpening my mind and diving into it, man. This is just chapter 1, so hopefully next time we'll probably have a better location, and we apologize for that. But the main thing, we hope that the content pierces your heart. I know it did mine, and we're gonna keep pushing forward and making it count from there.
All right, man. God bless y'all. Be safe. Peace.
Take care.